Now to that new report, which has uncovered the extent to which Moscow is conducting an extensive campaign to take Ukrainian children to Russia and sometimes even give them military training or forcibly adopt them. Actions, according to the report's authors, that constitute war crimes under international law, possibly even evidence of genocide. The report was produced by the Yale Humanitarian Research Lab as part of a State Department-supported program for gathering evidence of Russian war crimes. It identifies 43 facilities that are a part of a network stretching from the Black Sea to Siberia. Their primary purpose appears to be political re-education. Nathaniel Raymond is the Humanitarian Research Lab Executive Director and oversaw the report. Nathaniel, I saw you call this an Amber Alert for Ukraine's children. Can you just explain what you mean?
Well, Anderson, what I mean is that while we know now that at least 6,000 children have been through the system, we think the number is actually far larger. And we are basically dealing with the largest network of children's camps seen in the 21st century that stretches from the Black Sea all the way to the eastern Pacific coast, about 1,300 miles from Alaska. And so in these 43 facilities, we have 4-month-olds all the way to 17-year-olds, many of which have not been able to contact their parents in months.
I mean, how is this organized? Who is in charge of this? How high up does this go in Russia?
This goes all the way to the Kremlin. The leader of the program is a woman known as Maria Lvova-Belova, who is under U.S. sanction. She is the Child's Rights Commissioner for Russia. And what we identify in this report is 12 individuals, some of which reporting directly to Lvova-Belova, that are not under U.S. sanction yet, or international sanction, including 4 regional governors. And this is very important. Russia is running sort of what could be described as a twisted sister cities program, where communities in Russia are sponsoring communities in Ukraine on an individual town-by-town basis to bring those children into Russia for re-education purposes, including military training in 2 instances.
So in some instances, they're actually giving children, teenagers, military training, and they're doing re-education in the sense of sort of Russian-focused re-education. They're trying to make them into Russians. Is that right?
Yes, which does constitute a potential crime against humanity and violation of the 1998 Rome Statute and the Genocide Convention. It is illegal under international law, even temporarily, to transfer one group of children to another group for purposes of erasing national identity or ethnicity. That was actually the first trial held at the Nuremberg tribunals against the Nazis after World War II.
The Russians, at least some in the government, they seem proud of this. I mean, it's not as if they are doing all of this in secret. They are embracing this as like a national project, it seems.
100%. The primary audience here for what is dubbed a humanitarian project can be described as a performance for Russia's domestic citizenry. At the end of the day, this is part of an effort to rebrand the invasion. But what's clear is that it's a violation of the Geneva Conventions, and we're basically talking about thousands of children that are in a hostage situation where they could be used as a bargaining chip in any future prisoner exchange with the Ukrainians. And first and foremost, the Russians had an obligation under Geneva Convention to move them to a third-party country, not to Russia. That right there, no matter how long they stay, makes this a war crime.
And some of them, correct me if I'm wrong, who may have parents are labeled orphans and being adopted into Russian families or fostered by Russian families.
We found 2 locations, including a psychiatric hospital and what the Russians call a family center in Moscow, where children, some of them infants and toddlers, are being adopted and fostered by Russian families. After the invasion, Putin and the Kremlin changed Russia's adoption law to allow for the first time adoption of Ukrainians. Additionally, they added a $200 a month bonus in basically Russia's social security system to encourage adoption. So at the end of the day, our number one information source was the statements of Russia's own officials as they were promoting the program and speaking about it as something they were proud of.
I mean, this is truly sickening. I mean, this is sick.
I've been a war crimes investigator for 24 years. I've worked on everything from torture to large scale massacres. This has been one of the hardest reports I've worked on because I'm watching a disaster that is a human rights emergency that's going to radiate for decades for these children happen, and there is so far little we can do about it.
What can be done?
Well, we have submitted our report to the U.S. Department of State. They are reviewing the information in the report to see if there's steps such as sanctions or other efforts that the U.S. can do against these specific individuals or this program, and we'll see what the U.S. government does. I think that there are four things that can be done, Anderson. First, and most critically, is registration. Going back to Bosnia, to Kosovo, many recent conflicts, having a clear, internationally monitored registration system is the first step to reuniting families. Second, communication. The phones of these children, when they have them, have been taken in many cases. Reestablishing means for them to call home, call mom, call dad is a critical first step. And third thing is we need international monitors in there from the United Nations and other international governmental organizations, because right now it's only Russia's word, and that's not good enough. And fourth and finally, there needs to be movement of these kids to a third-party country as required by the laws of war.
Nathaniel Raymond, your report is stunning. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All honor to my team.